The salvage yard stretched across 3 kilometers of barren rock, a graveyard of twisted metal and broken dreams under the harsh light of Kepler 442b's twin suns. Captain Elena Vasquez kicked a piece of corroded hull plating, watching it skitter across the dusty ground. Around her, the remnants of 1,000 different species technology lay scattered like bones after a feast. "Another dead end," muttered Chief Engineer Marcus Chen, wiping sweat from his forehead with an oil-stained rag. "The Galactic Council's tribute demands keep going up, but they won't even let us buy proper salvage." "Just this junk," Elena nodded grimly. 3 months had passed since the Council's latest ultimatum. Humanity had 6 months to produce a warship capable of defending their small cluster of colonies, or face protective incorporation into the Zeltharian Empire. Everyone knew what that meant. Slavery, resource extraction, and the slow death of human civilization. The problem was simple. Humans were the newest species in galactic society, barely 50 years since first contact. They had no advanced technology, no powerful allies, and certainly no experience building warships that could stand against the massive dreadnoughts that patrolled Council space. "Ma'am," called out Sergeant Rodriguez from across the yard, "you might want to see this." Elena and Marcus picked their way through the debris field toward Rodriguez's voice. They found him standing before what looked like a massive pile of scrap metal, easily 200 meters long and 60 meters wide. But as Elena looked closer, she began to see patterns in the chaos. "It's not random junk," she whispered. "It's a ship, or what's left of one." The hull was a patchwork of different metals and alloys welded together with techniques she didn't recognize. Some sections were clearly human in origin, with the clean lines and pragmatic design philosophy that marked Earth engineering. Others were alien, featuring the flowing curves of Centaurian biotech or the angular geometries favored by the Krell Collective. "Look at this welding," Marcus said, running his hand along a seam where human steel met what appeared to be Zeltharian energy-conductive alloy. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. These materials shouldn't be compatible, but someone made them work together. Rodriguez pulled out his scanner and took readings along the hull. "Energy signatures are all over the place. I'm detecting at least 12 different power sources, but they're all cold now, been dead for years." Elena felt something stir in her chest, a feeling she hadn't experienced since childhood when she first dreamed of the stars. "We need to get inside." It took them 2 hours to find an intact airlock, hidden beneath a collapsed section of what might have once been a weapon turret. The inner door was sealed but not locked, opening with a hydraulic hiss that suggested the ship's basic life support systems still functioned on some level. The corridors inside were a maze of contradictions. Human standard lighting strips were mounted alongside Altarian crystal formations that glowed with their own inner light. The floor plating shifted between materials every few meters, creating a walking surface that was functional but aesthetically chaotic. "It's like someone took a dozen different ships and mashed them together," Marcus observed. "But look at how the systems integrate. The power conduits are running parallel but isolated, probably to prevent cascade failures. And these support beams, they're distributing stress loads across at least 3 different structural paradigms." They reached what had once been the bridge, though it bore little resemblance to any command center Elena had ever seen. Control stations were arranged in a rough circle, each one clearly designed for a different species. A chair sized for human proportions sat next to what was obviously a Zeltharian nerve interface pod. Beyond that was a standing station with multiple armrests, probably meant for the 4-armed Kethari. But it was the central command chair that drew Elena's attention. It was human-made. She was certain of that, but it had been modified with technologies she couldn't identify. Neural interface cables hung from the headrest, while the armrests held control surfaces that seemed to respond to different types of biological input. "Captain," Rodriguez called from across the bridge, "I found something." He was standing at what appeared to be a tactical station, its screens flickering weakly with residual power. But it wasn't the technology that had caught his attention. It was the personal effects scattered around the station. A human military insignia, a photo of Earth taken from orbit, and a worn journal bound in synthetic leather. Elena picked up the journal with trembling hands. The cover was embossed with words in several languages, but the English stood out clearly. "Personal log, Captain Sarah Chen, UES Defiance." Chen? Marcus looked up sharply. That's my family name. Elena opened the journal to a random page and began to read aloud. Day 847 since leaving Earth. The Council's forces destroyed our home system 3 days ago. Only the Defiance escaped, and only because we had technologies they didn't understand. They think humans are weak, because we're new to the galactic stage. They've never seen what we can do when we're truly desperate. The words hit the 3 humans like a physical blow. Marcus sank into the nearest chair, his face pale. My grandfather was named Sarah Chen. She disappeared during the First Council War along with her entire ship. The military said they were lost in a navigation accident. Elena continued reading, her voice growing stronger with each word. We've learned so much from the other species who've been crushed by the Council. The Altarians shared their crystal technology before their worlds were glassed. The Kethari gave us their metallurgy secrets before their fleets were destroyed. Even some rogue Zeltharians have helped us, disgusted by their empire's brutality. She flipped to another page. The Defiance isn't just a human ship anymore. It's become something new. Something that represents the hopes and knowledge of every species that refuses to bow to tyranny. We've taken their best technologies and made them work together in ways none of them thought possible. The Council thinks they understand warfare, but they've never faced anything like what we're building. Rodriguez was exploring the rest of the bridge, his excitement growing by the minute. Captain, these systems aren't completely dead. There's still power running through the core, just barely enough to maintain basic functions. And look at this. He had found what appeared to be a construction bay schematic, its holographic display flickering weakly but still readable. Those are blueprints, Marcus breathed. Complete technical specifications for every system on this ship. Life support, weapons, engines, everything. And see these notes in the margins? They're written in at least 6 different languages, but they're all saying the same thing. For those who come after. Elena felt her heart racing as the implications sank in. This wasn't just a salvage find. It was a gift from the past, a message from humans who had faced the same impossible odds they were facing now. Captain Sarah Chen and her crew had taken the scattered remnants of destroyed civilizations and forged them into something greater than the sum of its parts. We're going to rebuild her, Elena said quietly. We're going to take everything Captain Chen learned, every innovation her crew developed, and we're going to build something the galaxy has never seen before. Marcus looked up from the journal, tears in his eyes. Grandmother, you magnificent bastard. You knew someone would find this eventually. The twin suns were setting as the 3 humans made their way back to their transport, their minds reeling with possibilities. Behind them, the Defiance sat silent in the growing darkness, but it was no longer just a pile of scrap metal. It was hope waiting to be reborn. The news spread through the human colonies like wildfire. Within a week of Elena's discovery, volunteers were arriving at the salvage yard from every human world. Engineers, technicians, welders, programmers, and soldiers, all united by a common purpose and the ghost of Captain Sarah Chen's legacy. Dr. Amara Singh arrived on the 3rd day, her transport ship loaded with fabrication equipment salvaged from a dozen different sources. She was Elena's oldest friend and humanity's leading expert on xenotechnology integration. When she saw the Defiance for the first time, she stood silent for nearly 10 minutes. My God, Elena, she finally whispered. Do you understand what this is? This isn't just a ship. It's a technology revolution. Look at these power coupling systems. They've managed to integrate Krell plasma conduits with Altarian crystal matrices. That should be impossible. The energy frequencies are completely incompatible. But it works, Marcus said, consulting his grandmother's journal. According to her notes, they achieved a 97% efficiency rating across all systems. That's better than most single-species ships manage with their own technology. Dr. Singh was already climbing into the ship's bowels, her scanner beeping rapidly as she examined the fusion of technologies. They didn't just force different systems to work together, she called back. They created hybrid technologies that are actually superior to the originals. This quantum processing core combines human computational logic with Centaurian bio-neural networks. The processing speed should be incredible. Above ground, the construction site was becoming a small city. Workers had erected temporary shelters and workshops around the Defiance, turning the barren salvage yard into a hive of purposeful activity. The sound of welding torches and plasma cutters filled the air as teams began the delicate process of restoring the ship's basic systems. Commander Jake Morrison, Elena's former first officer, was coordinating the military aspects of the reconstruction. He had arrived with a team of combat veterans, all volunteers who understood they were preparing for a fight they might not survive. As he walked through the ship's weapon bays, Morrison couldn't help but whistle in appreciation. "Elena, these aren't standard weapon systems," he reported over the comm. "According to the schematics, they've integrated kinetic accelerators with plasma bolt technology and something called resonance disruptors. I've never heard of those before." Elena was in the ship's core, watching Dr. Singh work on the main power systems. The journal mentions them. Apparently, the Kethari developed them as a last resort weapon. They create harmonic vibrations that can tear apart molecular bonds. Captain Chen's crew figured out how to focus them into directed energy beams. How effective are they? Elena consulted the journal again. According to the test data here, they can cut through Zeltharian battle armor like it's made of paper. The problem is power consumption. Each shot drains about 15% of the ship's total energy reserves. So we get maybe 6 shots before we're dead in space. Morrison mused. We'll have to make them count. The work continued around the clock. Human engineers worked alongside the few alien refugees who had quietly joined their cause, species whose own worlds had been conquered by the Council, but who still possessed crucial technical knowledge. A Kethari metallurgist named Vextar taught them how to properly align the resonance crystals, while an elderly Altarian named Silneth shared the secrets of bioneural interface technology. The Council believes that diverse species cannot truly cooperate. Silneth explained as she helped install the ship's communication arrays. They think cultural differences make real integration impossible. This ship proves them wrong. Your Captain Chen understood that diversity is strength, not weakness. 3 weeks into the reconstruction, they faced their first major crisis. A Council inspection team arrived unannounced, demanding to examine the human salvage operations. Elena met them at the edge of the salvage yard, her heart pounding as she watched the sleek Zeltharian shuttles settle onto the rocky ground. The inspection team was led by Subcommander Kethfor, a tall, imposing figure in the black and silver uniform of the Zeltharian Space Force. His reptilian features were expressionless as he surveyed the bustling construction. "Sight, impressive for primitive beings," he said in heavily accented English. "The Council is curious about your sudden burst of activity. Building a warship requires resources and expertise your species lacks." Elena forced herself to remain calm. "We're working with salvaged materials and existing human technology. Everything you see here is perfectly legal under galactic salvage rights." Kethavor's eyes narrowed. "Indeed. We shall inspect this salvaged technology to ensure it meets Council regulations." What followed were the most terrifying 4 hours of Elena's life. The Zeltharian inspection team crawled over every inch of the visible construction, scanning systems and taking detailed measurements. Dr. Singh had managed to power down the most advanced systems and hide their true nature behind facade panels, making the ship appear to be little more than a collection of crude human modifications to standard salvage. The team's technical specialist, a pale humanoid with large eyes, spent considerable time examining the weapon systems. Elena watched nervously as he ran his scanner over the carefully disguised resonance disruptors, which appeared to be nothing more than modified mining lasers. "Curious design," the specialist noted. "These power couplings are unusual for human technology." "We had to adapt to work with salvaged components," Marcus replied smoothly. "Human engineering is all about making do with what's available." Kethvor seemed particularly interested in the ship's command structure. "This vessel is quite large for a human ship. What is its intended purpose?" "Colony defense," Elena answered. "We're planning to use it for patrol duties in the outer systems, protecting our mining operations from pirates and asteroid threats." It wasn't entirely a lie. The ship would indeed defend human colonies, just not in the way she was implying. After what felt like an eternity, the inspection team finally departed. Elena watched their shuttles disappear into the sky before allowing herself to breathe again. The close call had reminded everyone involved that they were operating under the constant threat of discovery. That night, as the construction crews worked by floodlight, Elena found herself in the ship's restored observation lounge. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the sprawling construction site. Hundreds of humans and their alien allies working together toward a common goal. Dr. Singh joined her, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing a satisfied expression. "The main power core is finally stable," she reported. We managed to integrate all 7 power sources into a unified grid. The output is actually 30% higher than what Captain Chen achieved. How long until we're ready? Elena asked. 2 months, maybe 3 if we run into complications. The weapon systems are the biggest challenge. We're not just rebuilding them, we're improving them, based on what we've learned from the alien refugees. Vextar thinks we can increase the resonance disruptor efficiency by 20%. Elena nodded, then asked the question that had been haunting her. Do you think we can actually win? One ship against the entire Zeltharian fleet? Dr. Singh was quiet for a long moment. Captain Chen didn't think they could win either, she finally said. But they built this ship anyway, because sometimes the act of fighting back is more important than victory. This ship isn't just about military capability, Elena. It's about proving that humanity won't go quietly into slavery. Outside, a shower of sparks lit up the night as welders worked on the ship's hull plating. The Defiance was slowly coming back to life, transformed from a derelict wreck into something that might just change the balance of power in the galaxy. Elena sipped her coffee and watched the work continue. In 6 weeks, the Council's deadline would arrive. The Zeltharian Empire expected humanity to surrender without a fight, to accept their place as conquered subjects. They were about to learn that humans had other plans. The transformation of the Defiance had reached a critical phase. What had once been a graveyard of scrap metal now hummed with controlled energy. As integrated systems came online one by one, the ship's exterior bore little resemblance to any vessel in known space. Its hull a masterwork of improvised engineering that somehow achieved perfect aesthetic harmony. Elena stood in the rebuilt command center, watching her bridge crew run final system checks. The original design had been expanded to accommodate a larger crew, with stations arranged in concentric circles around the central command chair. Every position could be operated by multiple species, a feature that had proven invaluable as alien refugees continued to join their cause. Navigation systems show full functionality, reported Lieutenant Hayes from the helm. The hybrid drive system is responding perfectly. Integration between the human fusion engines and the Krell plasma drives is seamless. Weapon status? Elena asked. Commander Morrison looked up from the tactical station, his expression mixing pride with apprehension. All 12 resonance disruptors are online and calibrated. The new efficiency modifications mean we can fire 8 full-power shots before hitting critical power levels. The kinetic railguns are loaded with the new hybrid ammunition Vextar developed. What about the surprise Silneth has been working on? Morrison grinned. The bio-neural torpedo guidance system is installed and tested. Those missiles will be able to think and adapt faster than any point defense system the Council uses. They've never faced anything like it. The past month had been a whirlwind of innovation and desperate creativity. As word of the project spread through underground channels, more alien refugees had arrived with crucial knowledge and equipment. A group of escaped Centaurian scientists had brought advanced shield technology, while former Krell military officers shared tactical information about Council fleet formations. Dr. Singh emerged from the engineering section, her uniform stained with various exotic lubricants and her hair disheveled from crawling through maintenance shafts. Despite her appearance, she was beaming with satisfaction. Elena, you need to see this, she announced. The quantum processing core is exceeding all expectations. We're getting computational speeds that rival a Council command ship, maybe better, and the bio-neural networks Silneth integrated are allowing the ship to literally learn and adapt in real time. What do you mean? The ship is developing its own tactical subroutines based on simulated combat scenarios. It's analyzing Council tactics and creating countermeasures automatically. Give it a few more days of processing time and the Defiance will know Council strategy better than most Council commanders. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. They were creating something unprecedented, a fusion of technologies and philosophies that the galaxy had never seen. But with each breakthrough, she became more aware of the enormous risk they were taking. If the Council discovered what they were building, the response would be swift and devastating. Her concerns proved prophetic 3 days later when long-range sensors detected an approaching Council fleet. 27 ships, including 3 heavy cruisers and a command dreadnought, were moving directly toward the human colonies. The Zeltharian Empire had decided not to wait for their deadline. Time to arrival? Elena asked, though she already knew the answer would be bad news. 18 hours at their current speed, Hayes reported. They're not trying to hide their approach. This is meant to be a show of overwhelming force. Elena activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the captain. The Council fleet has begun their final approach. We have 18 hours to complete our preparations and deploy. I know this isn't how we planned it, but sometimes the universe has its own schedule. The next 16 hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. Non-essential personnel were evacuated to the outer colonies, while the Defiance's crew made final preparations for what everyone knew might be a suicide mission. The ship itself seemed to sense the urgency, its bioneural systems processing data at an unprecedented rate. Dr. Singh worked miracles in the engineering sections, bringing backup systems online and implementing last-minute improvements that should have taken weeks to install. Vextar and his metallurgy team completed the installation of adaptive armor plating that could shift its molecular structure to absorb different types of energy. Attacks Commander Morrison drilled the weapons crews until they could operate their stations blindfolded. The tactical systems were running continuous simulations, preparing for every possible engagement scenario. Even Silnath, despite her advanced age, worked tirelessly to fine-tune the bioneural networks that would give them their only chance of victory. As the Defiance lifted off from the salvage yard for the first time in decades, Elena felt the weight of history settling on her shoulders. Through the observation windows, she could see the refugee workers watching their departure, representatives of a dozen species who had contributed to this moment. They had given humanity their knowledge, their hope, and their faith in a dream of freedom. "Captain," Lieutenant Hayes called from the navigation station, "we're receiving a transmission from the Council fleet. They're demanding immediate surrender of all human colonies and the delivery of this ship for inspection." Elena settled into the command chair, feeling the bioneural interfaces activate and connect her directly to the ship's systems. For a moment, the sensation was overwhelming. She could feel the Defiance's power flowing through her consciousness, could sense every system and subsystem as if they were extensions of her own body. "Open a channel," she ordered. The main view screen activated, showing the bridge of the Council command ship. Sub-Commander Cathavor appeared, now wearing the insignia of a full commander. His reptilian features showed no emotion as he stared at Elena. "Captain Vasquez," he said formally, "you will surrender your vessel immediately and submit to Council authority. Your species' attempt at resistance ends now." Elena stood slowly, feeling the ship's power systems respond to her emotional state. Around her, the bridge crew maintained their positions with calm professionalism, ready to follow her lead into whatever came next. "Commander Cathavor," she replied, her voice carrying across subspace to reach every ship in the Council fleet. "I want to thank you for giving us this opportunity. For too long, humanity has been seen as weak, primitive, unworthy of respect. Today you're going to learn what humans can accomplish when we're pushed to our limits." Cathavor's eyes narrowed. "Your bravado is impressive but pointless. You have one ship against 27. Even your hybrid technologies cannot overcome such odds." Elena smiled, and for the first time since taking command, she felt truly confident. "Commander, you're making the same mistake the Council always makes. You think this is about numbers, about superior firepower and overwhelming force, but you've never understood what makes humans dangerous. And what is that? We don't fight to win, Commander. We fight because it's right, and when we fight for what's right, we become something more than the sum of our parts." The connection terminated as the Council fleet began moving into attack formation. Elena settled back into the command chair, feeling the ship's systems integrating with her consciousness. Around her, the bridge crew prepared for battle with quiet efficiency. "All stations report ready." "Captain," Morrison announced. Elena looked at the tactical display, watching 27 enemy ships arrange themselves in a perfect attack formation. They moved with the precision of a military machine that had conquered half the galaxy, confident in their superiority and certain of victory. "Take us in," she ordered. "Let's show them what Captain Sarachen's granddaughter learned from scrap metal and determination." The Defiance accelerated toward the Council fleet, its hybrid engines singing with perfectly synchronized power. Behind them, the human colonies waited in tense silence. Ahead, the greatest test of human ingenuity and courage was about to begin. The space between the two forces crackled with tension as the Defiance approached the Council fleet. Elena felt the ship's bioneural networks analyzing the enemy formation, processing tactical data faster than any human mind could comprehend. Through her neural link, She experienced the ship's thoughts as a constant stream of probability calculations and strategic assessments. Enemy fleet is maintaining standard council attack formation. Morrison reported from tactical. 3 heavy cruisers taking point positions, destroyers forming a picket line, and the command dreadnought holding back to coordinate the assault. They're being cautious, Elena observed. HFY War isn't taking any chances with an unknown technology. Dr. Singh's voice came through the comm from engineering. All systems operating at peak efficiency. The adaptive armor is ready to respond to energy weapon impacts, and the resonance disruptors are charged to full power. Elena studied the tactical display, watching the council ships maneuver with practiced precision. 27 vessels against 1, each enemy ship larger and more heavily armed than anything humanity had ever built. By every conventional measure, this should be a slaughter, but the Defiance wasn't a conventional ship. Target the lead cruiser, Elena ordered. Let's announce our presence properly. The first resonance disruptor blast caught the council forces completely off guard. The energy beam, invisible to normal sensors, struck the heavy cruiser's forward shield array and simply passed through as if the protective barrier didn't exist. The molecular disruption field tore through the ship's hull armor like tissue paper, cutting a perfect line from bow to stern. The massive warship broke apart in a series of brilliant explosions, its reactor core detonating in a ball of plasma that briefly outshone the system's star. Silence filled the communication channels for several seconds before Commander Kethavor's voice exploded across all frequencies. All ships concentrate fire on the human vessel. Maximum intensity. The response was immediate and overwhelming. 26 ships opened fire simultaneously, filling space with energy beams, plasma bolts, and kinetic projectiles. The Defiance disappeared behind a wall of destructive force that should have vaporized any ship in known space. But when the barrage ended, the human ship emerged unscathed. Adaptive armor performed perfectly, Dr. Singh reported with barely contained excitement. The molecular lattice adjusted to absorb and redirect the energy attacks. Hull integrity at 98%. Elena felt the ship's satisfaction flowing through the neural link. The bioneural networks had anticipated the enemy response and prepared countermeasures in real time. The Defiance wasn't just surviving the battle, it was learning from every exchange. Return fire, Elena commanded. Show them what coordinated systems can accomplish. The Defiance's response was a masterpiece of integrated warfare. Resonance disruptors targeted shield generators, while kinetic railguns punched through weakened armor. Bioneural torpedoes weaved through point defense arrays with impossible agility, each missile adapting its flight path based on real-time analysis of enemy countermeasures. 3 council destroyers exploded in quick succession, their wreckage spreading across the battlefield. A 4th ship, struck by a resonance disruptor beam, simply broke apart as its molecular bonds dissolved. The council formation began to waver as commanders struggled to understand how their superior numbers were being neutralized by a single opponent. Captain, Lieutenant Hayes called from navigation, we're receiving multiple surrender requests from council ships. Some of them are trying to withdraw from the battle. Negative, Kethavor's voice cut across the channels. All ships will maintain formation and continue the attack. This is a direct order from Council Command. But Elena could see the doubt spreading through the enemy fleet. Ships that had moments before advanced with confident aggression now moved hesitantly, their commanders no longer certain of victory. The Defiance had shattered their fundamental assumptions about human capabilities. Morrison, status on our weapon systems? 5 resonance disruptor shots remaining. Kinetic ammunition at 60%. The bioneural torpedoes are actually performing better than expected. They're learning from each engagement and becoming more effective. Elena nodded, then opened a general communication channel. Council Fleet, this is Captain Vasquez of the UES Defiance. You've seen what human ingenuity can accomplish when combined with the knowledge of free peoples. Your commanders told you this would be an easy victory against primitive beings. How many more ships are you willing to lose to prove them wrong? The response came from an unexpected source. Captain Jelkar, commander of one of the remaining heavy cruisers, appeared on the view screen. The Zeltharian officer looked tired and conflicted. Captain Vasquez, he said formally, your ship's capabilities are unprecedented. But surely you understand that one vessel cannot defeat the entire council. Surrender now and your crew will be treated with honor. Elena felt the Defiance's weapon system cycling, ready for another coordinated strike. Through the neural link, she sensed the ship's eagerness to continue the fight. But she also detected something else. Transmissions from other council ships. Private communications expressing doubt and questioning their orders. Captain Jelkar, I appreciate your concern for my crew, but you're missing the point of this engagement. This isn't about military victory or defeat. This is about proving that free peoples can achieve things the Council considers impossible. She paused, letting her words sink in across all communication channels. Your empire conquers through fear and overwhelming force. You've convinced yourselves that diverse species cannot truly cooperate, that technological integration is beyond the reach of primitive civilizations. The defiance proves you wrong. Another series of explosions lit up space as 2 more council ships fell to the human vessel's coordinated assault. The enemy formation was beginning to collapse as individual commanders made the choice between loyalty to their orders and the survival of their crews. Every technology on this ship was created by species your empire has conquered or destroyed, Elena continued. Krell plasma systems, Altarian bio-neural networks, Kethari metallurgy, and human engineering. We took the scattered knowledge of free peoples and made it into something greater than any of us could achieve alone. Commander Kethavor's voice exploded across the channels. Enough! All ships ramming speed. We will not be lectured by inferior beings. But his order was met with silence. One by one, the remaining council ships began to power down their weapons and withdraw from the battle. Captain Jelkar was the first to speak. Commander Kethavor, I cannot sacrifice my crew for a battle that serves no purpose except pride. The human ship has demonstrated capabilities that require reassessment of our tactical doctrine. Coward, Kethavor spat. The Council will hear of your treachery. The Council will hear the truth, Jelkar replied calmly. That free peoples fighting for their survival can accomplish miracles. Elena watched the tactical display as ship after ship disengaged from the battle. Within minutes, only Kethavor's command dreadnought remained, its weapons still trained on the Defiance but no longer firing. Commander, Elena said quietly, you can end this now. Take your ship and withdraw. Report to the Council that humanity is not as primitive as they believed. For a long moment, space was filled only with the background radiation of the cosmos. Then Kethavor's image appeared on the main screen, his reptilian features twisted with rage and something that might have been respect. This is not over, Captain Vasquez. The Council has resources you cannot imagine, fleets that could darken the stars themselves. Elena nodded slowly. I'm counting on it, Commander. Because when they come, they'll find that the galaxy is full of species who remember what freedom means, and some of us are willing to fight for it. The dreadnought's engines flared to life as it began its withdrawal from the battlefield. Around them, the wreckage of Council ships drifted silently, a testament to what could be accomplished when diverse peoples worked together toward a common goal. But Elena knew this was only the beginning. The real war was about to start. 3 weeks after the battle, the Defiance hung in orbit above New Geneva, humanity's capital world. The ship's hull bore the scars of combat, but repair crews worked around the clock to restore damaged systems and implement new improvements suggested by the encounter with the Council fleet. Elena stood in the observation lounge, watching shuttles arrive from across human space, representatives from every colony, military officers, scientists, and civilian leaders all coming to witness what many were calling humanity's declaration of independence from Council authority. Dr. Singh joined her at the window, carrying a datapad filled with technical specifications. The ship's bio-neural networks recorded everything from the battle, she reported. The learning algorithms have already identified 17 ways to improve our weapons efficiency and 12 new defensive configurations. How long until the Council responds? Intelligence estimates put their reaction time at 6 to 8 weeks. They'll need time to analyze our capabilities and develop countermeasures. But when they come back, it won't be with a small patrol fleet. Elena nodded grimly. The victory had been satisfying, but she harbored no illusions about the larger conflict. Humanity had won a single battle against a galactic empire that commanded thousands of worlds and millions of ships. The real test was yet to come. A chime from the communication console interrupted her thoughts. Lieutenant Hayes appeared on the screen, his expression mixing excitement with disbelief. Captain, you need to see this. We're receiving coded transmissions from across Council space, some kind of underground network. Elena and Dr. Singh hurried to the bridge where Hayes had isolated the incoming signals. The main view screen showed a complex web of communication nodes spanning dozens of star systems, all carrying the same basic message. "It's incredible," Hayes continued. "Resistance groups from every species in Council territory are trying to contact us. Krell separatists, Altarian freedom fighters, even some Zeltharian dissidents. Word of our battle is spreading faster than official Council communications." The first clear signal resolved into the image of a Kethari rebel leader, her forearms gesturing emphatically as she spoke in accented English. "Human ship Defiance. This is Tekvala of the Kethari Liberation Front. Your victory has inspired hope across Council space. We offer our assistance in the coming war. Our people have not forgotten their independence, and we are ready to fight alongside any who oppose Council tyranny." Similar messages followed from dozens of other groups. Species that had been conquered decades ago were suddenly declaring their readiness to rebel. The Council's greatest strength, their vast empire, was becoming a weakness as subject populations saw proof that resistance was possible. Commander Morrison studied the tactical implications with professional interest. If even half these groups follow through, the Council will face uprisings on hundreds of worlds simultaneously. They'll have to spread their forces thin just to maintain order. Elena felt a thrill of possibility mixed with the weight of responsibility. We're not just fighting for human independence anymore. We've become a symbol for every species that remembers what freedom means. Over the following days, the underground network grew stronger and more coordinated. Vextar, the Kethari metallurgist who had helped build the Defiance, revealed his connections to resistance cells across the galaxy. Through him, Elena found herself in contact with a shadow alliance of species that had been working separately toward the same goal. The most significant contact came from an unexpected source. Silneth, the elderly Altarian bioneural specialist, received a message from her homeworld that left her trembling with emotion. "My people," she whispered, tears flowing down her weathered face. "The Council believed they had crushed our spirit completely. But some of our greatest scientists went into hiding. They've been working for 30 years to develop technologies that could challenge Council supremacy." The transmission that followed changed everything. Hidden laboratories on Altair had been developing quantum communication networks that could coordinate resistance activities across galactic distances instantly. Bioneural manufacturing systems that could build ships and weapons from basic materials. Most importantly, they had perfected the integration techniques that Captain Sarah Chen had started. "They want to build more ships like the Defiance," Silneth explained. "Vessels that combine the best technologies of all free peoples. But they need the original specifications and someone who understands the integration process." Elena looked around the bridge at her diverse crew. Humans worked alongside aliens in perfect harmony, each contributing their unique strengths to a common cause. The Defiance had become proof that cooperation between species could achieve what isolation never could. "Set course for the Altair system," she ordered. "It's time to turn one ship into a fleet." The journey to Altair took them through the outer edges of Council space, where patrols were light and surveillance networks had gaps. Dr. Singh used the time to work with Silneth on improving the ship's bioneural systems, while Vextar coordinated with Kethari resistance cells to arrange supply routes for the coming conflict. But it was a discovery in Captain Sarah Chen's personal quarters that provided the most important breakthrough. Hidden behind a false panel, Morrison found a sealed container holding data crystals that contained the complete history of the original Defiance project. "My grandmother documented everything," Marcus breathed as he examined the crystals. "Not just the technical specifications, but the philosophical principles behind the integration process." She believed that diversity of thought and approach was the key to creating truly revolutionary technology. The data revealed that Captain Chen had been part of a larger movement, a network of human and alien scientists who understood that the Council's greatest weakness was their rigid thinking. They had developed integration techniques that went far beyond simple technological compatibility, creating hybrid systems that exhibited emergent properties neither component could achieve alone. As they approached the Altair system, Elena felt the weight of history settling around them. The Defiance had begun as a desperate attempt to save humanity from conquest. But it had evolved into something much more significant, the focal point for a galactic revolution. The hidden Altarian shipyards were a marvel of concealed engineering, built inside hollowed-out asteroids and powered by carefully shielded fusion reactors. They had remained undetected by Council surveys for 3 decades. When the Defiance arrived, Elena found herself looking at the beginnings of a fleet that could challenge the Empire's supremacy. 6 ships were under construction, each one incorporating lessons learned from the Defiance's design. But they weren't copies. Each vessel reflected the unique characteristics of its builders while maintaining the integration principles that made hybrid technology possible. The Krell ship Vengeance combined plasma weapon, systems with human tactical computers and Altarian bio-neural networks. The Keth-Hari vessel Resonance featured improved metallurgy alongside Centaurian shield technology. Most impressive was the joint human-Altarian ship Hope, which pushed the integration concept to its logical conclusion by creating entirely new technologies that had never existed before. This is what Captain Chen envisioned, Dr. Singh said as they toured the construction facilities. Not just one ship fighting alone, but a fleet that represents the combined knowledge and determination of free peoples everywhere. Admiral Kethmar, the Altarian fleet commander, was an elderly being whose bioluminescent skin patterns showed deep satisfaction as he watched the construction progress. The Council believes that conquered species lose their will to fight, he explained. They think that overwhelming force breaks the spirit permanently. The Defiance has proven them wrong. Elena nodded, but her attention was focused on the tactical display showing Council fleet movements. Intelligence reports suggested that the Empire was massing forces for a massive retaliation. 3 grand fleets were being assembled, each one containing over 1,000 ships. "Admiral," she said quietly, "how long until your ships are ready?" 6 weeks for the first 3 vessels, 2 months for the complete squadron. But Captain, even 7 ships cannot stand against 3 grand fleets. Elena smiled, thinking of all the resistance groups that had contacted them, all the species ready to fight for their freedom. "We won't be fighting alone, Admiral. By the time the Council arrives, they're going to face something they've never encountered before. A galaxy that refuses to surrender. The real war was about to begin, and for the first time since first contact, the free peoples of the galaxy had hope. The final battle began at the edge of the Kepler system, where 3 Council grand fleets materialized from hyperspace in a display of force that darkened the stars themselves. 3,000 ships arranged in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the authority of an empire that had never known defeat. Elena stood on the bridge of the Defiance, surrounded by her diverse crew and connected to the ship's bio-neural networks. Through quantum communication arrays, she was linked to resistance cells across the galaxy, coordinating a rebellion that spanned hundreds of worlds simultaneously. "Status report," she called. 7 hybrid ships ready for combat, Morrison reported from Tactical. "The integration fleet is performing beyond all expectations. Each vessel is operating at 115% of design specifications." Dr. Singh's voice came through from engineering. "All systems are green. The bio-neural networks are processing battle data from every resistance group in real time. We've never been more prepared." But Elena knew that preparation could only go so far. 3,000 ships against 7 was odds that no amount of advanced technology could completely overcome. The real question was whether the galaxy was ready to fight for its freedom. The answer came as the Council fleets began their advance. Across dozens of star systems, resistance groups launched simultaneous attacks on Council installations. Krell separatists seized orbital platforms above their homeworld. Altarian freedom fighters disabled communication relays that had suppressed their people for decades. Even some Zeltharian military units declared for the rebellion, turning their weapons against their own empire. "Elena," Silnath called from the bio-neural coordination station, "we're receiving status updates from across the galaxy. The uprising is exceeding all projections. Resistance forces are reporting victories on over 200 worlds." The tactical display showed the scope of the rebellion in real time. Red icons marking Council defeat spread across the galactic map like a virus, while green markers indicated successful resistance operations. The Empire's greatest strength, its vast territory, had become its weakness as subject populations rose in coordinated revolt. High Admiral Sekthul, commander of the Council forces, appeared on the main view screen. The ancient Zeltharian's reptilian features showed cold fury mixed with something that might have been respect. "Captain Vasquez," he said formally, "you have orchestrated an impressive insurrection, but ultimately it will change nothing. We will crush your handful of ships, then spend however long necessary hunting down every rebel cell in the galaxy. Elena felt the Defiance's weapon systems responding to her emotional state, resonance disruptors charging to full power. Around her, the bridge crew maintained their stations with calm professionalism born of absolute trust in their hybrid technologies. "Admiral Sekthul," she replied, "you still don't understand what you're facing. This isn't about military victory or defeat. This is about proving that free peoples can achieve anything when they work together." Pretty words. They will not stop plasma bolts or kinetic rounds. Elena smiled, feeling the confidence of the bio-neural networks flowing through her consciousness. "No, Admiral. But they'll do something much more important. They'll inspire others to keep fighting long after we're gone." The battle began with the fury of 3,000 ships opening fire simultaneously, space filled with energy beams, plasma bolts, and kinetic projectiles in quantities that should have vaporized any opposition instantly. But the 7 hybrid ships danced through the barrage with impossible grace, their integrated systems allowing them to anticipate and counter attacks faster than any purely technological solution could achieve. The Defiance led the formation, its adaptive armor absorbing energy attacks while resonance disruptors carved through council ships like ethereal blades. Behind it, the other hybrid vessels demonstrated the full potential of integrated technology. The Krell ship Vengeance unleashed plasma storms that turned council formations into expanding clouds of debris. The Kethari vessel Resonance used improved metallurgy to ram straight through enemy battle lines, its hull shrugging off impacts that would have destroyed conventional ships. But it was the human Altarian ship Hope that provided the most devastating surprise. Its experimental quantum fold weapons created localized space distortions that caused enemy ships to literally fold in on themselves, disappearing from normal space in brilliant flashes of twisted light. "Impossible," Admiral Sekthul's voice exploded across all frequencies. "How are 7 ships holding against 3 grand fleets?" Elena's answer came not in words but in action. The hybrid fleet coordinated its attacks with perfect synchronization, each ship's bio-neural networks sharing tactical data in real time. They fought not as individual vessels but as a single organism, anticipating each other's moves and covering weaknesses with seamless efficiency. The Council forces began to show signs of confusion and demoralization. Ships that had never faced serious opposition found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned by opponents they had been taught to consider primitive. Formation discipline started to break down as individual commanders made desperate attempts to achieve some tactical advantage. Then the real surprise arrived. "Captain," Lieutenant Hayes called from navigation, "we're detecting hyperspace signatures. Multiple fleets approaching from 7 different vectors." The Council forces assumed they were about to receive reinforcements, but the ships that materialized bore markings Elena recognized immediately. Resistance fleets from across the galaxy, hundreds of vessels that had been hidden on remote worlds or disguised as merchant ships, all converging on the battle site simultaneously. Admiral Kethmar led the Altarian contingent, while Tekvala commanded a squadron of Kethari warships that had been thought destroyed decades ago. Even more surprising was the appearance of Zeltharian rebels, Imperial Navy officers who had chosen freedom over empire and brought their ships to join the fight. "Admiral Sekthul," Elena announced across all communication channels, "meet the real council. Representatives of every free species in the galaxy, united by a common belief that diversity makes us stronger, not weaker." The balance of the battle shifted dramatically as resistance forces engaged council ships across a front that stretched through multiple star systems. But more importantly, the psychological impact was devastating. Council crews who had been raised to believe in their invincibility found themselves facing enemies they thought they had conquered permanently. The turning point came when Admiral Thul's own flagship was surrounded by hybrid vessels whose integrated technologies made them effectively immune to conventional weapons. The ancient Zeltharian found himself forced to watch as his grand fleets were systematically dismantled by opponents who refused to follow established rules of warfare. "Enough," he finally transmitted. "I request parley under the galactic rules of warfare." Elena considered the request, feeling the weight of decision flowing through the bio-neural networks. Around her, the battle continued as resistance forces pressed their advantage. But she knew that true victory required more than military defeat. "Granted," she replied, "but the terms will be negotiated by representatives of all free peoples. not just humanity. The ceasefire took effect gradually as word spread across the battlefield. Council ships powered down their weapons while resistance forces maintained defensive positions, ready to resume fighting if negotiations failed. The peace talks that followed took place aboard a neutral station at the edge of the battle zone. Elena found herself sitting across from Admiral Sekthul and a delegation of council leaders, while representatives from dozens of species participated via quantum communication links. "Your terms?" Sekthul asked without preamble. Elena consulted the consensus that had emerged from hours of discussion among the resistance leadership. Complete independence for all species currently under council control. Dismantling of the tribute system and the military occupation forces. Establishment of a new galactic confederation based on voluntary cooperation rather than conquest. Impossible. The council will never accept such terms. "Then the war continues," Admiral Kethmar interjected. "But now you know what you're truly fighting. Not primitive rebels, but the combined determination of every free people in the galaxy." Sekthul was quiet for a long moment, his ancient eyes studying the faces around the negotiation table. Finally he spoke. "You have proven that integrated technologies can achieve remarkable results, but can diverse species truly cooperate in peace as effectively as they have in war?" Elena thought of Captain Sarah Chen's journal, of the dream that had driven her grandmother to build the first Defiance from scrap metal and determination. "Only one way to find out, Admiral. But given the choice between freedom with uncertainty and slavery with security, free peoples will choose freedom every time." The negotiations continued for 3 days, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The Council Empire had been shattered, not by superior firepower, but by the simple proof that cooperation could achieve what conquest never could. 6 months later, Elena stood once again in the salvage yard where it all began, watching construction crews dismantle the remaining wreckage. But now they weren't scrounging for usable components. They were carefully cataloging technologies that would be